I salute you all in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Siya Samuel. Now, concerning the state of Israel, especially the immediate future, the Lord showed me something some time back. He said there was going to be that war, and the war has happened and has dragged on for now 2 years. And then he said that there would be a period of relative peace. And what would happen during that period is unprecedented technological advances that man has not yet seen. And I'm going to share with you a video. I'm going to attach it to this one here. Make sure to watch until the end. You will hear what Netanyahu will be saying about that. Now, one other thing that we need to take notice of is China's openly come out to be anti-Israel. Remember, according to the book of Revelation, they are referred to as the kings of the East. So they are taking their rightful place in this entire play out of events. Now, listen to what Netanyahu says, and then I believe God will touch you and will bless you. And you don't have to live in a confusion, wondering what is going on. You need to know what God is doing. One of the other things that you need to understand and internalize completely and totally, and that is that God is in control. So even though the entire world, all the nations of the world gang up against Israel, even if they choose to impose a state that is living for one thing, and that is for the entire destruction of the nation of Israel, a terrorist entity next door to Israel, even if they choose to do that. Right now, we are past rational thinking and talking. Right now, we are in the realm of spiritual warfare. Okay, so you have to take note of that. So nations like the UK, there is Canada, then I think Australia's Canada, all of them, and very many others. By the last count, was it almost 150 nations? They've agreed to grant Palestine a statehood. And basically, what they are doing, they are taking away God's land, God's own portion, God's own portion, and they are giving it to the enemies of His people. So I'm not going to be surprised if terror attacks and jihadist movements rise up in nations like France, the UK. I'm not going to be surprised when we hear more catastrophes and jihadist attacks there, because the leaders of these nations, in a bid to appease the the Muslim population in their nations, have decided to give up Israel. They have decided to trade Israel for their safety. They believe that if you can give the Islamists what they want, then you will have peace. They are not going to have peace because these Islamists are now emboldened by what they have already achieved. In fact, the leader of Hamas has already said that the events of October 7th, 2023, are responsible for Palestine being granted or being recognized, being granted a state. Remember, 5 times in the past, 5 times they have been given a state and they have rejected it. The very first time was in 1947. They chose to go to war, and 5 Arab nations decided to go and invade the nation of Israel. And it didn't go well for them. Ever since, they have been licking their wounds. All right? But now is the movement. So everyone who is rising up against Israel is rising up against God, and they will not overcome. This is a war between God and those who are incensed against Him. All right? In other news, we are seeing great revivals breaking out in America following the death of Charlie Kirk. And that thing, the Christian father, the revival that is rising up in America, and I believe is going to spread to Europe. That's what God is working out. That's what I suspect. I'm going to find out for Him. I'm going to ask, and then I'll find out. But this revival will spread far and wide, and more is going to begin. So what we are going to see is a renaissance, a revamption of the Christian world, the Christian civilization. Meanwhile, the Chinese are salivating. They think now is the time to pounce. They actually believe that America has declined, that it is in its last stages. No, the spirit of America cannot decline. The spirit of America is the spirit of God. He founded that nation, and so He will not let it go to waste. And God is working out something spectacular. So we are going to see revivals, which have already happened because millions of people all over the world, not just in America, but in Europe and different parts of the world, the youth, there is a resurgency of Christianity. There is revival. It is a spiritual awakening that is happening and that we are having on our hands. So it is not bleak. The future is not bleak. Father is still in control, and he is ruling and reigning in the midst of the nations. So fear not. Stand strong, be a priest, pray. All right? Fight spiritual wars. Safeguard your communities and your cities. Cast out the devil of delinquency, alcoholism, prostitution, and every kind of vice that is antichrist. Cast them out. Don't let those vices take root in your communities. All right. So I'm going to share a brief video appended to this one, where Netanyahu is talking about the innovations that are happening in Israel, and why he was encouraging very many investors to put their money in Israel. So let's go.
Yesterday, I spoke a little about the Israeli economies. So I want to repeat a story that I told 22 years ago. I took over as finance minister in one of the worst economic crises in Israel's history. And I could only gather about half a dozen European investors. And I said, you really should invest in Israel. And I told them what we were going to do, that we were going to turn Israel from a semi-socialist economy to a vibrant free market economy with all the reforms, market reforms. And they said, well, that sounds pretty good. So they asked me, what do you think we should invest in? And I said, anything. Invest in anything in Israel, because everything that you see today will be a lot more expensive tomorrow. You can make a killing. Now, I don't know if any of them believed me. At the time, the Israeli GDP per capita was about 17,000. Today, it's passing 55,000 and soon reach $60,000 per capita annually. The Israeli economy is very strong. I have terrific confidence in it. It is strong. It is innovative. It weathered two economic crises. The Corona crisis came out first in the world, and the two-year war, where we have an enormous amount of investments. People are coming, and they'll continue to come for everything that we're doing, not only the economy and the technology of today, but the technology of the future, cyber, AI, and so many other things. And basically, my call to you, the investors of the world, get on board now, because we're about to take off. We're about to take off with the technologies of the future. You've got a glimpse of it in the amazing possibilities and the amazing achievement of Israel in the 12-day war with Iran. You could see the things that Israel could do that amazed the world. That's part of what I'm talking about. We're talking about the technologies of the future that are here today and are being developed in Israel. I described how one analyst told me, I couldn't believe the numbers. I couldn't believe the numbers that I was seeing. This cannot be an economy at war, but it is. So let me show you briefly the numbers that describe what Israel is doing. Can we have the first slide, please? Well, the first point that you see is the stock exchanges of the world, the investors of the world believe in Israel. Look at how fast it's growing. This is from the year 2024. This is inside the war. Look at the S&P and look at the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Slide. And this is what I was talking about before in Hebrew. This is where the dollar was, okay? And look at where it is today. I mean, the shekel. To buy a dollar, you needed 3.7 shekels here in 2024. And now, at the end of 2025, it's gone down considerably. That's an indication of confidence in our economy. Keep going. That reflects the GDP per capita growth that we had. These are the two things I always look at when I look at economies. Any economy. First, what's the GDP per capita? And second, what's the debt to GDP ratio? So the GDP per capita has been going up steadily, far outstripping other Western economies. That's the first thing. Let's look at, by the way, this is in shekels, okay? This is about $55,000, and it just keeps on going. Can I see the next slide, please? This is the debt to GDP ratio. That says how much debt are you carrying on your GDP, on your economy. Okay, so let's look at what happened. This is 2002, 2003. Israel was right here. I had the good fortune of steering it into a free market economy. You can see what happens. The debt to GDP ratio goes down and stays down. But look at what happens in the other economies. Look at the USA, shoots up. Look at the advanced economies, Europe and others, goes up. This is the health, the vibrancy of Israel's economy, and it really didn't change because of the war. It really didn't change. It's an amazingly resilient economy. Next. This is the unemployment rate. Goes down, 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 and goes down. Keeps on going. People have jobs. They'll continue to have jobs. Next. This is how much, this is, I'm putting this up, the electricity prices in Israel, because it's a reflection of a great reform that we did, which is getting natural gas out of the sea. And what it does is it pushes Israel to this end. We have cheap energy. Cheap energy is very important, both as a raw material. It's very, very important also for AI and for other uses. It's very important. This is the economy of the future. Let's see that for a second. Really look at this. Okay. This is business expenditure on R&D funded from abroad. So this is by country. How much is funded from abroad in your economy? Well, this is clearly the winner, the United States, naturally. This is in absolute prices, 2023. Let me tell you that our indications for 2024, that it's considerably higher for Israel than what it was in 2023. So I don't have yet the results for 2024, but the early indications are it's considerably larger. So the first country in the world receiving foreign investments for R&D is the United States. And the second country receiving investments for R&D in absolute terms is Israel. And the third country is Germany, which is 10 times our size in population roughly, okay? And it's it's actually considerably smaller than Israel. And down it goes, UK, France, and so on. This is a very powerful economy. It's an economy of 10 million people, but they're very gifted people, amazingly gifted. So let's look at the next point. This is our defense industry budgets, which I spoke about yesterday. The defense industry is very strong. This is record exports, $15 billion. But, here's the but. Everything else is basically controlled by market forces. There's a global economy, and people have an opportunity to get on board, and that's my message to all the investors. Get on board now, because we're about to take off into the technologies of the future. The one area that I spoke about yesterday was the weapons industry. There's a race now for weapons in the world, but it is not a market race. Because unlike everything else that we could talk about, that's controlled by governments. And their calculations can sometimes be political, not necessarily economic. And therefore, what we are going to do is to build an arms industry that will match the best arms industries in the world with one proviso. We want to produce first for ourselves on a much larger scale and with unimaginable innovation. I speak to the innovators. I find it hard to believe what they're telling me that they're going to produce. Then again, they said that to me a few years ago, and I found it hard to believe, but you saw some of it, not even all of it, in the 12-day war with Iran. So we are going to produce an independent arms industry, very powerful, very strong, that can withstand any kind of international political constraints and will provide security for the state of Israel. This is what I envision for the state. It's going to continue to grow, it's going to continue to innovate, and it's going to continue to provide for our security and our prosperity, and I think soon with expanded peace treaties in the Middle East. It'll take time. You don't see it right now, but it's coming. And the last thing I would say is, the future belongs to those who innovate. Israel is the innovation nation. So Get on board because we're about to take off to a new stage of prosperity. Thank you.